A Beastie Boy is back. So are the Rolling Stones. Rolling Stone the magazine published a controversial list. Gelli Haha show and Radiohead's new exhibit, Blue Minds. I'm Dave. I'm here with Andrew and Bill, and you're listening to BV Weekly. Yes, you did not hallucinate that. Andrew is back. Andrew, what's up?
Hey, happy to be back more permanently after the Coachella episode.
Yeah, you haven't been totally gone. And you've been here with the 1996 content each week. And yeah, the surprise Coachella episode. But it's true, Andrew is coming back to the podcast after parental leave. How's fatherhood?
Oh, it's great, honestly. Happiest I've ever been. Most tired I've ever been, but also happiest.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's great. But also happy that you're able to do this. Hey, Bill.
Hi, guys. Happy to be here.
Hey, Bill.
Amanda is coming by later, so stay tuned. But meanwhile, just the three of us. It's been a crazy, busy week. Oh, so Bill, hopefully you are not still tripping. I know you went to that Radiohead exhibit this week.
I'm coming down, but I can, things are seeing straight. But yeah, I went to see this brand new Radiohead virtual spatial audio immersive experience thing. It's called Kid A Amnesia. And you may remember back in 2021, this thing came out as a virtual exhibition that you could download on Xbox or your PC. And it featured Thom Yorke and Stanley Donwood's art from Kid A and Amnesiac. They put out that double album set of both records sort of crammed in together. And it also featured songs from those records with sound design by Nigel Godrich. And then at Coachella this year, they turned it into an actual real-life exhibition with that video game turned into a 75-minute film that also came with actual artwork from Stanley Donwood and Thom Yorke. And now it is touring around the world, and it just opened on Wednesday at Brooklyn's Navy Yards at the Agar Fish Factory, former location of the Agar Fish Factory. And it's here through the 28th of June. I was pretty impressed with it, I have to say. You go in and you first get to the exhibit before you get to the film. You get like half an hour to just sort of wander around. There's a room with hundreds of televisions, and then there's some gigantic artwork. If you've seen this stuff before, there are these little like minotaur guys and these weird sort of big-headed figures throughout the video, and I guess the artwork as well from the albums.
Does it smell like fish?
It does not smell like fish. It has been cleaned out like so much of the Brooklyn Navy Yards, and now it's used for event spaces and stuff like that. The big place where Andrew and I saw Justice last year or the year before is right next door to it. It's just a big old warehouse. And then you walk in to this giant room with 4 LED screens, and there's like cushions that you just sit down on the floor and hang out, and you watch this 75-minute film that features songs from both albums, but it doesn't follow the track lists of the record in any sort of way. It just mixes and matches. And then there's the new sound design elements that Nigel Godrich did. And he actually was on site earlier this week and did a special fine tuning of the mix just for the room. If you like those records and you want to hear it in super immersive sound, it's technically 6.1.1. So there's 6 speakers, which are like stereo, and then one that's directly above your heads. And then the other thing is the subwoofer, I guess. I thought it sounded fantastic. I was a little worried I was going to be bored, but visually it was very cool, but mainly just getting to hear these songs in these new mixes that are swirling around you while there is very cool, trippy visuals going on. I was reminded of the old Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon planetarium exhibits. Not that I ever went to one, but I had friends who did, and would go and get stoned or whatever. And on that sort of level, I thought it was really great. And the like exhibition was cool. And there's a nice merch room as well, like a gift shop, exit through the gift shop to quote from another non-Radiohead thing. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. Now, mind you, I got to go for free, but I think it's like $75 for this. Your mileage may vary on whether you think that that's worth it. But I think if you like those two records and you want to hear it like in a way that you've probably never heard it before, it might be worth it. I have a couple friends that I saw there, and both of them paid, and they said it was great and that they would do it again.
I don't know if this indicates demand, but I noticed when we first announced it in our Brooklyn Vegan article, it said it only went till like May 31st. And now it's in Brooklyn till June 28th. So they expanded it too. There must be some demand there.
Yeah, it was originally just 3 weeks, and it's now almost 2 months long. So yeah, I only think they let about 120 people in there at a time, so it's not crowded. You know, you have room to like move around, and there was plenty of room to sit. So yeah, it's a cool experience, I thought.
I noticed they sell the tickets like you have to choose which time you want to go in. It's every 2 hours or whatever.
Right. So it's a 75-minute film, and then you get, as I said, before it starts, you get half an hour to wander around all this stuff, and there's, you know, you can get a drink at the bar and that sort of thing. Look at the gift shop and see if you want to buy a $120 sweater or whatever. There was also a really funny shirt that said, "My parents love Radiohead," that I thought was great. Yeah, I was very glad I went. I was a little worried I was going to be bored, but I thought it was really great.
When you mentioned the Pink Floyd comparison, I was like thinking how this is probably much later in Radiohead's career than that was for Pink Floyd, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'm sure they were doing those in the late 70s and early 80s.
I think you could still go to Pink Floyd planetarium someplace. Yeah, for sure.
But I think of like, because there's like a That 70s Show reference to like a Pink Floyd laser light show or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So Radiohead doing this like 25 years after Kid A came out, and then my parents like Radiohead joke, it'd be like, I guess, like a Dark Side of the Moon event in 1999. I like to think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Just with like next level visuals and sounds, especially sound. I mean, those old Pink Floyd things were more old school and had charms in their own way, but this was pretty cool.
So right now it's in Brooklyn till June 28th. It then goes to Chicago from July 30th to August 23rd, then Mexico, then San Francisco. Who knows if they'll keep it going. Well, yeah, it finishes in San Francisco in February 2027. So yeah, it'll be around for a while.
Sounds like it'd be fun to see at the Sphere.
I was thinking that as well, that I think that film alone would play fantastically at the Sphere, and people would probably pay, you know, $250 to go see it there. So in some ways, $70 is a bargain.
Yeah, honestly, in today's like price day and age, it doesn't sound that bad. I don't know.
If No Doubt can play the Sphere, Radiohead should definitely be also playing the Sphere.
I think the Sphere should be reserved for visually trippy things. So, Bill, do you agree that Radiohead's Paranoid Android is the 64th best guitar solo of all time?
It was more like the 72nd for me, but it's excellent.
So that's where it came in on Rolling Stone's list. And
I see.
I think this list is cool. I know some people might be rolling their eyes at a greatest guitar solos list. I think all time lists it's too much of a time frame, because like, how are you supposed to compare anything from the last 25 years to like Stairway to Heaven? But it's nerdy enough that it interested me a little more, honestly, than just like all-time albums. I like the nerdiness of it, and here I am to nerd out even further.
You also play guitar.
I do play guitar, and I have wondered while thinking about. I know here's what I'll say. not everybody at the Brooklyn Vegan staff thinks a guitar solos list is as interesting as I do. And I do have to wonder, is part of that I play guitar?
No, it's probably part of it, but I think also you playing guitar is part of why you understand music on another level compared to me anyway. So that's it helps with the way you talk about music and think about music, and which really is a great thing for writing about music. But yeah, it's true. I didn't want to click on this. I wasn't going to look. I didn't even look at Rolling Stone's new list of 100 best guitar solos. I'm just like, well, first of all, it just doesn't interest me that much, I guess. But also, part of me was just like, I'm not taking this bait. But go on.
And by bait, you kind of mean Geese.
I just knew this list was, yeah, I do mean that. But I do think this list was partially made to argue, for people to argue about. But I guess you could say that about all lists. So the algorithm, so I didn't look at the list, but I did notice on Twitter, social media, people talking about the list. And I also noticed Rolling Stone posting that they made the list. But then there was only one other tweet from Rolling Stone that I noticed. And that was, I don't know if they did individual tweets for all 100
They
entries.
did a lot. They did a lot. But go on.
The one that came into my feed, thank you very much, Chaotic Good, was Geese's placement with Getting Killed at number 98 on the list. And sure enough, that was probably, I'm going to guess, the most, quote, controversial entry, or the one just most put in there for people to get mad about.
It feels like it was a combination of an excuse to make the list feel relevant now. I not throwing stones, because we make lists like this too, and I don't want, the writers of Rolling Stone put a lot of hard work into this, but I would imagine it's partially like, okay, why would we do this now? Well, because Geese has such a good guitar solo, and they are bringing attention back to guitar solos, because we should talk, and we will talk about, do people even care about guitar solos anymore? Do they matter the way they used to? But on the other hand, I do think it's like, Geese cracks the top 100 a few months after the record came out. That's a really hot take, and hot takes make people angry, and they cause engagement, and we all know that.
It's true.
MJ Lenderman also made the list.
MJ Lenderman also made the list. I think those were the two most recent ones. And because Geese are allegedly a psyop, I think there is more angry to people, whereas MJ Lenderman is maybe more like, oh, that's awesome for his fans. And I would say about 80% of the discourse on this list I've seen has been around the Geese inclusion. I found it actually because Jimmy Eat World were tweeting that they were celebrating being on the list. Surprising no one. That's how I found it.
And did it surprise you they made the list?
Yes, it surprised me, and I'm happy for them. I'm happy they're on it at all. I don't think The Middle is their best guitar solo, but I understand that The Hit usually makes the list. Although Nirvana made it with Heart-Shaped Box, and I would have thought Smells Like Teen Spirit would be their most iconic guitar solo. And I think one of the best, and probably one of the first examples of a vocal melody as guitar solo, which I think is a really important way to do guitar solos. But Dave, as someone who cares less than me, one of my glaring omissions is a solo that you may care about. I think Danzig's Mother should have made the list.
Hell yeah.
I think, of course, the riff is iconic, the three chords, but the solo is also iconic. And another glaring omission, as Bill, I know you agree, is The Darkness. And Bill, when you talked to Justin from The Darkness about guitar solos, he said
we did.
that a great guitar solo, you should be able to hum it. And I agree with that. And the solo to Mother by Danzig, I can hum the entire thing in my head. I'm hearing it as we talk right now. And I think that is, for me, more impressive than speed. I think soul and melody, hummability is more important to a solo than speed, which is why I actually, if you were to ask me my issues with the list, Van Halen's Eruption at number 5, get over it. It's just fast.
Yeah.
It's not that interesting. I think that is one of the most overrated songs ever. Sorry, Van Halen. But also, to the point of, do I care because I play guitar or not? Van Halen is literally named after their lead guitar player's last name. There absolutely was, I think, a feeling at a different point in rock music of the guitar solo is like second to the lead vocal. You know, like who is the most household name in AC/DC? Is it either of their lead singers or is it Angus Young? I have, as you can see, I have a lot of thoughts. I'm jumping around, but
I do agree that The Darkness should have been on there, and picking a song from Permission to Land for it to be the best guitar solo. I don't know. There's about 37 guitar solos across the 11 songs or whatever, and they're all genuinely fantastic and do what Justin says. Like, you can hum them, but like, I think they should have some flash, but they shouldn't be too wanky. They like not too long. They got to go somewhere, you know, and sort of in back up with the next part of the song. And some of the best guitar solos are like only 25 seconds long or something, you know, it's just the right amount for me.
100%. Yeah. No, I mean, even again, to go back to Mother by Danzig, if you can hear it in your head, it ends on that bendy note, that like, well, and then a little pause, and then a snare drum, and then right back to the chorus. It's got to take you back to the chorus. But yeah, I will say, unlike Jimmy Eat World, because you said you don't know what Darkness solo you'd pick, I'd go with the hit. I Believe in a Thing Called Love solo is probably the number one most iconic guitar solo of the last 25 years. I think. I mean, I'm trying to think. Immediately I went to like, what's a guitar solo of recent times, and I'll say 21st century is recent enough, that like really a lot of people know. Like, you don't have to be a nerd, and like, think about that song coming on at a party at the bar, like the amount of people who were air guitar soloing that solo is equal to the people singing along to the chorus, I think. So I have to give that. I can't think of anything that tops it from the 21st century as like a widespread phenomena guitar solo.
I know what you're saying. And also, it's a song where I can hear the guitar solo in my head right now. Whereas I was looking through Rolling Stones list, and there were a bunch on there that I knew the song, but the guitar solo didn't immediately come to me.
Totally. Honestly, including the Geese song for me and the MJ Lenderman song. Both songs I've listened to like, I don't know, dozens of times.
I was glad that, spoiler alert, Stairway to Heaven was not number one.
I was glad that it wasn't number one, but I was sad that it ranked lower than Hotel California, which alongside Eruption is the other song I'm tired of seeing on these lists. So to have both of those in the top five, it's like, this is where I'm a little bit like the all-time angle, you know, like I almost would have been like, what about the 100 greatest guitar solos of the 21st century so far? Because do we really need to keep comparing more and more recent solos to Stairway, to Hotel California, to Johnny B. Good, to like the vast amount of Jimi Hendrix inclusions on the list? Like, you're not supposed to top those solos, you know, like,
right.
But then I guess that brings us to our question of, do they matter in 2026 in the 21st century? Like, what do you think, Bill? Do guitar solos, obviously they don't hold the cultural cachet they held in the mid 70s, but do you think that they matter? Like, are they an important part of modern music in your opinion?
Well, if you're still talking about guitar rock and guitar pop, they absolutely have a place, though not every band that I like had guitar solos. Like, Johnny Marr didn't really do a whole lot of guitar solos in the Smiths. There are some, but not that many. But if it's really comes down to, is there a reason for this guitar solo beyond taking you from the second chorus or the bridge into the final chorus or something like that, which is sort of where it always where I imagine it to be. And there are still people like doing interesting, cool things with guitar and doing it in melodic ways. I was trying to come up with some examples apart from The Darkness from the last few years, and I can't really think of one offhand. I sort of felt like Built to Spill should have been on this list.
I thought Built to Spill was a glaring omission for sure, but I also, like, to your point, like, I guess, do I think of them as guitar solos, or does Doug Marsh just play a lot of lead guitar?
That's true.
Like, Sonic Youth made the list, and honestly, I was like, I don't think of Sonic Youth as guitar solos. I think Thurston Moore and Lee Ronaldo belong near the top of a best guitarist list, and I think them and Doug Marsh are both on Rolling Stone's best guitarist lists. But and maybe you have like an iconic Built to Spill solo I'm not thinking of, but I think of him as like really, really cool lead guitar all over the song, but less so like, okay, now we break out into the solo.
Right. That's true. I will say though, one of my top 5 favorite guitar solos, not that I have a list, but it's by XTC. It's from their song Life Begins at the Hop, which is off Drums and Wires. And it's just a perfect little solo that Dave Gregory plays. And it's only 20 seconds or something but it's just perfect. And I could sing the whole thing to you now, but I won't do it. So that was the biggest thing that off the list. I mean, I wouldn't expect XTC to be on there, but yeah, do guitar solos matter anymore? I don't know, but if you hear a good one, you're like, yeah, they still do.
If it makes you feel good, anything that makes you feel good matters, right? So
it makes you happy, it can't be that bad.
Exactly. In that way, guitar solos are timeless because that's the goal.
Well, Dave, I think you would probably have a lot of perspective on this too, and actually the list doesn't really account for much of this, but I think one place guitar solos never really died is metal.
That's true.
I think it's way more common that modern metal bands are just regularly doing solos. And Boris made the list. That was cool, but I didn't see a lot of modern metal on there.
Did Horrendous make the list?
No, and that's like a great example of like in the world of Horrendous, a solo is just normal. It's not like, oh, we're doing a solo now,
For how about something more classic like Morbid Angel? I was trying to just find the whole list, but
I don't think Morbid Angel was on it. My biggest glaring omission for classic metal was there was no Slayer.
Was there Black Sabbath?
There was Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Metallica, Judas Priest. I don't have the full list in front of me, but there was metal on it. But I think like if I'm thinking about recent solos, at least half of the ones I'm thinking of are from metal bands.
Right, like the new Worm album, for instance, which features a solo from a classic Megadeth guitarist. That was like one of the things that first stuck out to me when the singles started dropping.
Right, and like in metal is like the one place too you can either metal or indie rock bands that have Jay Mascis on their album. You can say a guest guitar solo, and ears will perk up.
And MJ Lenderman has collaborated with Jay Mascis at this point, correct?
He has, but his own solo made the list. And Dinosaur Jr. was also on the list with Freak Scene.
Oh, good. But no, I'm just saying, yeah, now it's up to Geese to hook up with Jay Mascis if they really, truly deserve their place on this list.
There you go. I just noticed that Thin Lizzy aren't on this list. That seems kind of wrong.
That does seem wrong. I mean, who better to have perfected the dual twin solo?
Yeah, the twin solo. Like,
yeah,
that's if there's one thing that you think of, it's those solos, those twin leads. Yeah. My
most personal, I couldn't believe it, omission was nothing from Weezer's Blue album. I mean, the way you feel about Permission to Land is I'm like, I think you could pick any song on Blue album and put it on the list. To me, those are like some of the most iconic guitar solos post 80s. Because I think it's like punk is what starts to make solos irrelevant, and then the explosion of Nirvana is what popularizes the punk mindset. So like, not 90s to, I would want to see that, a list of the 100 best guitar solos of like the 90s to present.
That would be a better list. I would probably click on that one more, quicker than of all time, to your point.
I wished we saw Screaming Females.
That would have been good.
No.
Another reason guitar solos matter, I mean, you have to look at what pop and huge arena and stadium artists are doing. And you might say SZA and Chappell Roan, to just for two examples off the top of my head, are saying guitar solos matter.
When I was thinking, what is, like I said, I was like, what's the most iconic, more recent solo? I went to I Believe in a Thing Called Love. But then I was like, what is like the most recent solo I can really think of? Chappell Roan, Pink Pony Club. I don't think that the solo is good enough to be in the top 100. I think it's just a fairly standard solo that doesn't add much to the conversation of solos, unlike I Believe in a Thing Called Love, which really nailed being pastiche, but also being like better than a lot of the actual 80s hair metal bands. But just the fact that Pink Pony Club has such a shredding solo and that it's such a memorable part of the song and a memorable part of her live show, and her guitar player rips, I was thinking, okay, like there must be tons of people who see that and think that's cool. And then like, that's probably a lot of people's hook, because I can't remember the first time I was like, oh, guitar solos are cool, but everybody's got a gateway to something. And I would imagine Chappell Roan, Pink Pony Club in particular, is probably inspiring young people to pick guitars up and be like, oh, I want to learn how to do that.
Like Van Halen did in the Michael Jackson song.
Yeah, right. It is, which was number 12, I think, Beat It.
Oh, that is on there?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
I think no surprise, but yeah.
No
right,
surprise.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
but
exactly. Like I bet a lot of people, actually, I know somebody who told me that song was like technically their gateway to metal.
I can see it, but like my opinions on guitar solos, I think this maybe is going on just a little too long. So Dave, what else are we talking about?
I think on that list was the Rolling Stones, who meanwhile just released 2 new songs, announced a new album. The songs are pretty good.
I think so. And I think we all agreed that their last record was kind of surprisingly good, given they've been a band for 60 plus years.
True.
But we don't all agree that the 2 new songs are good. Is that what we're getting at here?
I was not implying that. I was speaking for myself, but then I realized I could also speak for both of you. But the new one is also produced by Andrew Watt, who seems to have taken it upon himself to revitalize classic rock bands. And I think, two divisive reactions from fans. Some people are less happy with what he does with these artists than others. I think, I don't know if it's his credit or if it's just coincidental but that they are realizing like we've only probably got a few years left of this. But I thought the Stones sounded pretty fired up on the last one, and these new songs feel like a continuation. And I think that we should not take it for granted. It's like, I'm like the first to be like, nobody needs to listen to like the Stones 90s records. But now it's like they've come so far. They've passed the threshold of like irrelevant older band that doesn't match the times anymore, that now I'm just like, no, this is amazing. They still sound like 70 Stones in 2026. We need to treasure this. This won't last much longer. So I'm like so happy that the new Stones music just kind of sounds like mid-70s Stones. It's pretty amazing, I think.
Yeah, and they're still playing shows. Mick Jagger is 82 years old. They were just in New York City this week for an announcement event for this album. Andrew Watt was there as well, as were a few celebrities in the house. None of us went to this event, but it was right in your neighborhood, Bill.
A few blocks from me on Broadway, in the Williamsburg area, there's an old bank, is the Williamsburg Savings and Loan Bank, that has now become this big event space, and that's where it happened. So, like
right across from famous steakhouse Peter Luger and one of our favorite music venues, Baby's All Right.
That's right.
And Conan O'Brien interview. You may have seen footage. It's all over socials. Conan O'Brien was interviewing the Rolling Stones at this event, which was attended by a lot of media and a few celebrities. Like Odessa Ozian was there. That I officially had FOMO when I saw Odessa Ozian and Mick Jagger hanging out in Williamsburg. I wish I was there.
Hanging out with them.
Yeah. And Jason Isbell was in there. Like I said, Andrew Watt, Christy Brinkley.
Yep.
Yeah. And they talked about the new album has a bunch of guests. None of these guests were actually there, but they include one especially mind-blowing addition. The Cure's Robert Smith is on the album.
Not a person I would have expected to see on a Rolling Stones album.
Also, who would have thought in 2026, Robert Smith would be on not only a Rolling Stones album, but the Olivia Rodrigo record?
Is he on the record, or is she just singing the lyric about Just Like Heaven?
That's true.
But they have played together. And maybe here at BV Weekly, we would have predicted that because we track all of her cool kid rock club.
They haven't announced the full track list for her record yet, have they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so my money is on he shows up on that record.
I hope so.
He was interviewed and he said he didn't know she wrote that lyric until the song came out. Whether or not we believe that is a different story.
That makes sense. I don't think she needed to run that one by him. But also on the Rolling Stones record, Steve Winwood, Paul McCartney, Ben Montench from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers, who I think is just on like every album that Andrew Watt does.
Yeah,
it's true.
He seems to be. And Paul McCartney played bass on the last one too, the last Stones record. I always love when someone is just like, oh, we just have Paul McCartney casually playing bass. Like you have him in the studio and he's actually there and you're just like, oh, bass is fine. He doesn't need to do backup vocals or anything.
I think the Robert Smith thing just happened by accident, right? Is that what Mick Jagger was saying at that event, that he just happened to be in the studio?
If he's to be believed, yeah, he said that they had basically met in the studio. I think Mick Jagger went up to him and said, like, you're Robert Smith from The Cure. And then he was like, yes, I am. And then they ended up collaborating, which again, if you believe that, but almost the most unbelievable part is that Mick Jagger would initiate that conversation that way. Like, is he secretly a Cure fan? Because that almost surprises me more than the fact that they apparently haven't met ever.
Yeah, I don't know.
I bet he knows some Cure songs. He's got kids who were probably, came up in the 80s and 90s.
They've both been doing this long enough.
It's true.
They have. It is surprising that was the first time they met, though.
I just assume like all big rock stars have all, met at the rock star meetups.
Exactly. So Jason Isbell was there. And Jason Isbell just also announced some exciting news. He announced his 5th annual Shoals Fest, which goes down in Florence, Alabama, October 3rd and 4th at McFarland Park. And I'm sure like he usually does, he and his band, the 400 Unit, will be headlining each day. Although when it was 2 sets, I was wondering if like when he just played Radio City 2 nights, one was acoustic, that was the one I went to, and then 400 Unit the next night. But for this festival, the 2 nights are both billed as Jason Isbell and 400 Unit. But more crazy or rare and exciting is on Saturday, there is also a set of Drive-By Truckers with Jason Isbell back in the band doing their 2003 album Decoration Day, which was the first Drive-By Truckers album that he played on when he became part of the band. And he wrote some songs on that one. He sings and plays guitar. It wasn't as big of a surprise if they didn't already do this on Colbert at the end of last year, but it seems like they're rolling this out. So in December, we got the big news that Jason Isbell was going to play in Drive-By Truckers on Colbert. That did happen. Now we've got the full set at Jason's festival. We can only hope the next step in this process is a tour.
With MJ Lenderman opening.
Yes.
Seems totally possible.
And Jay Mascis is not also on the lineup of that fest, but Jeff Tweedy of Wilco did he get any of the, did Wilco get any 100 best guitar solos?
Yes, they're on there somewhere for like, I can't remember the name of the song, but they're on there.
Did he vote for himself? No, just kidding. So it's been a big week for Jeff Tweedy. He's making crossword puzzles for the New York Times, voting for the best songwriters in the New York Times. Oh yeah, right. That was both New York Times. They would kill two birds with one stone on that one. And then now he is also one of the greatest. No, who's the guitar? Is it Nels Cline doing the guitar solo? Who does the guitar solo?
I think the song was Impossible Germany, so I'm not sure who played on that one. So,
all right. Anyway, SG Goodman also on Shoals Fest, and that was cool to see because Patterson Hood made a list for us back when, Andrew, you made that list of Indie Americana. How is it titled?
Indie Americana. Country.
Indie Country. We had Patterson Hood, a grandfather of indie country, make us a list of his favorite indie country releases, and he included SG Goodman on there. And now SG Goodman is opening that fest as well. All right, I think it was guitar solos that brought Andrew back. Honestly, he couldn't resist talking about a guitar solo. But now that Andrew is here, you also got to talk some new releases. What albums are...
And one of my favorite albums of the year so far is out this week, today.
Oh, damn.
I bet you can guess that it is the new Basement album, Wired, their first in 8 years. Yeah, we talked when it was announced, so I think I'm not going to give the whole spiel on why this is so exciting that they're back again. But what I will say, so listen to whatever episode we did on that if you're like, wait, who is this band? Why do we care? But I will say now that they are back, now that the album is here, I really think I've been spending a lot of time with it. I think this might be my favorite Basement record. Covet from their 2012 album went viral recently, and that's, brought a lot of attention to this band. It's got 200 million Spotify plays or something at this point. They just don't at all rest on the laurels of like trying to recreate the type of sound that they made 14 years ago. It was produced by John Congleton, who it always kind of makes bands sound a little bit weirder in a good way. And it just
interesting.
Sounds so new. If you don't know the band at all, just check it out if you like alternative rock. Like Replacements is kind of a comparison that comes to mind. Jawbreaker, just a lot of like 90s, late 80s kind of alt rock in there, but also just from like a post-hardcore. I mean, they play hardcore festivals, so there's still like the energy there, but it's just so good. You mentioned Ben Montench, who also plays on the new Social Distortion record, which I kind of like the Stones, honestly. I'm just so impressed at how much it sounds like Social Distortion, but especially in their case, because it's the first in 15 years, first since Mike Ness was sadly diagnosed with cancer, but thankfully has recovered and come through on the other end. And Bill, I know you just talked to Mike, so you probably have even more insight into this record than me, but I'm just a huge fan of it. But tell me something that you learned from talking to Mike about this record.
He's still very passionate, and the cancer was on his tonsils, and that's very close to the vocal cords, and he was scared for a while that could have been the end of his voice. But I think he sounds great on this record, and I agree with you. It feels like just a classic sort of Social Distortion album. He's already working on the next record that he hopes to like have out next year. We'll see, but because he's said that I want to have a new Social Distortion out for years, but he feels really he seems really motivated now, and it was just a lot of fun to talk to, and excited about the new record, and excited to get out playing again. They're touring with the Descendants and the Chants this year, and yeah, it sounds like he knows that there's only so much time left, really. He's like in his mid 60s, and he has so many songs that he still wants to get out there. So, I don't think this will be the last we hear from them, like, in the near future. More will be coming sooner than later is what I'm trying to say.
No, that's awesome. And like, I think probably the main audience for this record is people who are already fans. But I'll just say, like, in case you're listening and you're like, that band's been around for 40 years and I've honestly never checked them out. I mean, like, hop in with this record even, although definitely check out the early 90s records. But like, I mean, they're just such an influential band, and they still sound like themselves. And I just feel like, like they're maybe not part of the current punk conversation, but could be. So I would highly recommend this, even if you have not checked out this band that's existed for nearly half a century. On a way different note, I do highly recommend the new Fire Tools album, Lavender Networks. It's her first for Warp. It's like got glitchy electronica and screamo and hyperpop. Zola Jesus sings on it. It does a million different things, and it's shockingly seamless. And there's too much out this week that I'm excited about to keep really talking about each one. But as always, check out notable releases on BrooklynVegan.com, which with more thoughts on records by Leaky Lee and Koyo and Broken Social Scene and Lorraine James, Action Bronson, Dark Throne, Panopticon, and Muna. It's a big week in notable releases. And less of a big week, but still some heavy hitters in Bill's Indie Basement. And Bill, I'm going to let you take it from here.
All right, Andrew, thanks. And we'll see you next week. As you said, there's lots of other stuff out this week. Aldous Harding, the New Zealand singer-songwriter, releases her 5th album, Train on the Island. And like her last couple, she made this with John Pearis at Rockfield Studios in Wales. And her band includes some Kate Laban regulars like H. Hochline. It's a really nice, subdued, understated record. Aldous uses a few different vocal styles on this record that she mixes it up a little more. It's nice. Designer is still my favorite Aldous Harding album, but this one's really good. Other stuff this week, Little Sims has a new EP called Sugar Girl that I have not heard yet, but maybe by the time you're listening to this, I will. Hopefully, I will. There's a new London band called 1000 Rabbits, and their debut EP is called Are We Friends Yet? And it's on the Young label. And if you like the current version of Black Country New Road or my new band Believe or Modern Woman, whose album came out last week, it's in that same sort of ambitious folk with a little bit of prog and baroque. It's a cool record. We've also got records from Gun Outfit. It's their first in 6 years from the West Coast band. It's called Process and Reality, and it's a 17-song double album. I think it's 17 songs. There's also a new one from the Lemon Twigs. If you like your Beatle-esque power pop, it's called Look for Your Mind. Though I feel like sharp pens are coming for them very quickly. And Cola's new album, which is called Cost of Living Adjustment. And all those records are in this week's edition of Indie Basement.
Also worth noting, Bill, that on the new episode of BV's Interviews, you talked to...
I talked to Alex Edkins of Weird Nightmare, and he used to be the lead singer of Mets. And so we talk about his great new album, which is called Hoopla. And he talks about, the sort of the end of Mets and then how Mets came back to be on John Mulaney's Netflix show, and obscure or maybe underknown Canadian indie rock bands from the 90s and stuff he likes now. It's a really fun conversation. And as Andrew mentioned, we've got Social Distortion's Mike Ness on the show next week.
Stay tuned for that. All right.
Yeah.
Before we keep going, Andrew is gone, everybody, for this week. He will be back. But I want to invite on Amanda to talk through a few shows we all went to and finish this out with the news. Shall we?
Yeah, let's.
Amanda, are you there?
Hey.
What's up? Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, we just talked about new albums. Andrew's gone. Sorry you missed him. But I want to talk about a new song because pretty much simultaneously with this podcast coming out, a new song is out by Mike D of the Beastie Boys. I got to say, I didn't really see this coming necessarily because the surviving members of the Beastie Boys have been so quiet. But also, it's not totally surprising, I guess, because he's been sort of active in the past few weeks out of nowhere. So basically what happens, a few weeks ago, Mike D made a surprise appearance in California at a show that was being played by his sons, Davis and Skylar, have a band called Very Nice Person. They were playing a show, I forget what town, but not even like the way I saw it described somewhere was kind of a town you would never expect this to happen in. And he came out and not just performed with them, but played Beastie Boys songs. So I think that's what was most shocking is for the first time, Beastie Boys actually played their final show June 12th, 2009. It was their set at Bonnaroo. I don't think they planned that as their final show. M.I.A. was diagnosed with cancer not long after, so they had to cancel shows. And he sadly passed away on May 4th, 2012. We just celebrate's the wrong word. We remembered the anniversary of M.I.A. passing away this past week. And now, how many years? Who's going to help me do the math? It's been since 2009. 14? Right. It's been 14 years since M.I.A. died, and even longer since Beastie Boys played a show. Mike D
17
appears.
years. Yeah.
Yeah. He appears at his kids' show and plays Beastie Boys songs. So that was even a trip to watch and hear.
Also, the crazy thing about this is that until earlier this week, I didn't even know this happened. And I don't know if it's a sign of how fractured all of our algorithms are becoming, but I can't believe that this just flew under my personal radar.
If there's anything to be taken from what you just said is maybe the Beastie Boys aren't getting the credit they deserve in 2026. But now Mike D has, after this, released a new song. Bill, you heard it, yes?
I did. I heard it.
And I mean, it's got Mike D's recognizable voice there. It's kind of like a he's, I don't know, rapping, singing over this fast breakbeaty like jungle beat. The end kind of slows down into more of a trippy, stonery like section, and overall not too far away from Beastie Boys.
Yeah, it's jazzy, and I definitely also thought jungle or drum and bass. It's got that sort of amen break style drum beat to it.
Right.
Pretty cool for what it was, for coming out of the blue, you know? He could have just done something that was very specifically Beastie Boys coded, but this feels like he's still trying new things.
Agreed. And he worked on it with his sons. I think it says that the song came out of like sessions he was doing with them, and names his studio. So I think his sons have a co-producer credit on it. And let's just say, all right, there's a clip that's kind of trending on social media right now of Rick Beato, famous producer and podcaster Rick Beato, talking about how pretty much like the reason rock is not as good anymore is because you could only really make rock if your parents are rich. That's like the gist of this whole speech he's giving. And he's really talking about how we're kind of in this Nepo baby era. And it's true. You look like we've now got Violet Grohl, Dave Grohl's daughter, making music. Kanye West's daughter making music. XCOM is like a really popular punk band right now. One of their dads is Scotty and from Anthrax. Gracie Abrams, one of the biggest, J.J. Abrams' daughter. Anyway, the list goes on. We're in this.
Are we ever not in a Nepo baby era? Isn't that kind of
true?
Isn't it always a Nepo baby era?
It probably, but it seems
I don't know.
I'm noticing more and more, because the rock stars we loved as kids, like their kids are now old enough to be in band. That includes Billy Joe's kid from Green Day. And on and on. So you have all these teenagers, early 20s kids from, the artists from We Grew Up. But anyway, but also Rick Beato's point was that you used to be able to be working class and in a rock band. And he names like a lot of bands from the 90s who did not grow up, quote, privileged, whatever it is.
Well,
so
I would say that, everyone's rent is now too high, and everyone has to spend so much time working that they don't have time to learn an instrument, practice an instrument enough to get good at it, practice with their friends.
That's exactly what he's saying. Yeah. So I think it's cool that Mike D is making music with his sons. I didn't even know about this band, Very Nice Person, until Mike D gave them attention by playing with them and now put them as co-producer of his new track. But I think that's kind of cool. I have to imagine that, like Andrew will do one day, that Mike was kind of inspired to work on music again because he got to do it with his kids. And I think it's cool that he's working on tracks with them, especially when they sound as cool as this new song does.
Yeah.
So I'm not holding it against, I'm not holding it against I also don't know the music of, what did I just say? They're called Very Nice Person. But I don't know. I think that's cool. Anyway, I was going to say too, this new song, if this is a taste of a new album. So Mike didn't just announce this new song. He's also announced 4 shows, 2 here in Brooklyn. I will almost definitely be attending one of those. And last night he played in California. So we're actually recording this like right before that show in California happened. So I don't know what he played at that show. But I am going to assume that if he played Beastie Boys songs with his kids and he only has 1 new songs out, that he's playing that new song and Beastie Boys songs at a minimum. I'm wondering if there's even more new songs.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was.
I will be very curious to find out. And I will say there's definitely a lot of interest in these shows. I think tickets moved very fast. So I do think there's a lot of people who are also, very excited for Mike to be back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these are small venues too.
Yeah, like the one in Brooklyn is very small. It's a roller rink and venue, but I don't think that there will be skating during the show.
No. It's really cool that he's playing. He's playing Xanadu in Williamsburg.
In Bushwick, actually.
Oh, sorry. I'm
right in my
stereotyping.
neighborhood.
North Brooklyn neighborhoods. Yeah, Xanadu in Bushwick, which is a roller rink, which is also, they have shows there. That's where I saw Speed and End It and who else was on that show? Anyway, that was one of the best shows of recent times when Speed played the roller rink. It is a really fun venue to see shows. I forget, Bill, have you guys seen shows there?
I have not been to Xanadu yet, and I'd like to go.
I haven't been there yet either, and I live like a 15 to 20 minute walk from there, so it's stupid that I haven't been there. I need to go.
Well, they have like, a lot of times they just have DJs playing while people actually roller skate, but then, for the shows, they take away the roller skates, I think. So they have a stage. Anyway, that should be awesome, and looking forward to seeing Beastie Boys songs played again. I've seen the Beastie Boys even in Williamsburg, so will not be. Oh, sorry, I have not seen Beastie Boys in Bushwick though. I keep calling Xanadu. Very close by. I think I want to say one of the last Beastie Boys shows I saw was like at Williamsburg Waterfront. Do you remember that happening, Bill?
I do, but I didn't go. Was it at the waterfront or was it at the actual pool?
It might have been McCarran Pool,
I
right?
want to say it was at the pool.
Okay.
And
McCarran.
it was probably one of the last shows that was actually at the pool before they turned it into a pool again.
That was it. It's like the difference between Williamsburg Waterfront and McCarran Pool, I'm realizing, is also hazy in my mind at this point.
It's all a blur.
Yes.
Because they moved the pool parties to the waterfront for 2 more years, but it was just never the same.
Right.
And then they also sometimes had shows at the waterfront after that. Then they had shows at like a different portion of the waterfront after that, where I saw like David Byrne and St. Vincent. And then there were no more shows on the waterfront, at least for now. Who knows?
I don't remember which version of the waterfront it was, but that's when I saw Faith No More when they reunited, which was also now 1 million years ago. Seems crazy.
There's just too many high-rise condos now with people who are angry about loud music, so I don't see that coming back.
Unfortunately, I think the days of live music at Williamsburg Waterfront are fully over. But
that's why it's all the Navy Yards now.
Yes, true.
Well, we have Mike D shows at super overpriced roller rinks, where so that at least that is one thing I noticed about Xanadu. They have like
somehow.
Unlike your usual roller rink, they have a really kind of gourmet, fancy food menu at Xanadu as well, and a bar, of course, but nice bar. And this new Mike D song is also the first new Beastie Boys material. No, the first new music by any member of the Beastie Boys since 2011's Hot Sauce Committee Part 2, which I guess, but I don't think it's the first time a Beastie Boy has appeared on a song, because Didn't Ad Rock do that song with Champagne Jerry, or is he just in the video? I don't know. Ad Rock, yeah, I don't know. Has Ad Rock done anything lately? Talking about Kathleen Hanna's husband, Ad Rock, of course. He used to. There was like this period where he would make random appearances at places like Joe's Pub in New York City as part of that scene that included like cabaret and silly performers like Bridget Everett, who's now a huge actress, popular from that show. Forget something somewhere, and Champagne Jerry. Champagne Jerry specifically, he did some videos with. I remember we may have premiered one of them on Brooklyn Vegan.
I think that's
anyway,
right.
But I don't think he did. I can't remember what he was doing, but he didn't do Beastie Boys material as part of any of that, and he didn't have new songs that were billed just
right. This is
Ad Rock.
Yeah, right. So this is exciting in that way.
Yeah. All right. My last Mike D story is I one time was sitting at a table right next to him at Angelica's Kitchen. Rest in peace. Amazing, historic New York City East Village vegan restaurant that is no longer closed like 10 years ago. Anyway. All right. We moving on? You
Let's
miss
move on.
Angelica's Kitchen?
Yes. One of the many vegan restaurants we've lost, sadly, in New York City.
So Bill and I saw the same band in the past week, and Amanda and Bill saw a different artist in the past week. Why don't you guys talk about, you both went to that Gelli Haha show at Bowery Ballroom.
Sure did. Amanda, you take it away.
Yeah, that was one of my most anticipated shows for a minute. You know, I love Gelli's 2025 album, Switcheroo. It was on our best of the year list. And I was so excited to see her live. And the show, I felt like it totally delivered. I was thinking about how Gelli had like a relatively small scale production, which like makes sense for the size stage she's playing. But even with just 2 dancers, a drummer, and a person doing like synths, I felt like just in that small crew of people, and like they had props, but there weren't any like costume changes or anything, but like they just did so much with that like small amount of things that they were working with. I loved the scale of it. It was perfect. It was just delightful. It was so whimsical, and I was just like smiling the whole time. The show really made me think of Sufjan Stevens' Age of Odds tour a little bit.
It made me think of Sufjan Stevens' Chicago shows, because I remember back then he specifically played like 5 nights in a row at Bowery Ballroom.
Yeah, it was
the whole crowd was not the whole crowd. On stage he had all the cheerleaders and everything, so there was like a similar vibe.
Yeah,
to the same
it was
exact
like this
venue.
in
But
kind
go
of
on.
a smaller scale. But again, like I said, the scale worked so well, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. And yeah, what did you think, Bill?
I had a blast at that show, as did every single person who was at Bowery Ballroom, and it was about as packed as I've ever seen it at Bowery Ballroom.
It was very packed, including with inflatable dolphins flying over our heads at one point.
That's true. I compared it to, it's like Bjork meets Kate Bush meets Of Montreal at Pee-wee's Playhouse. It was so tightly choreographed, but in a very DIY kind of way. Like it felt like, you could have made it yourself too. There was the little portable exercise trampolines. There was a giant parachute at one point. There was those like streamers on sticks, but just so well done, so much fun. And she just played the album in full, in order, plus her new single. And it was just the right amount of time. Like you weren't bored.
No, you couldn't have been bored.
And you left wanting more, I thought.
Yes.
And
I was thinking,
that's the way I'd rather be.
I love a choreographed pop show. It's one of my guilty pleasures in life, and I've seen a fair few, but there was something different and like really charming about this one that really set it apart and made it was, in some ways it was a choreographed pop show, but it also felt like really DIY and really like, not deeply felt, but just very like sincere but also a little like something like sweetly sinister about it, a little like trickstery. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, she has those red contacts that you see
I
her
love the
in
red
press photos.
contacts. They're
So
so
yeah,
good.
there's something slightly demonic about her.
Yeah.
You know,
But it's like
in a
just
candy colored kind of way.
I regret missing it. If you're listening to this, go see Gelli Haha
Yeah,
on tour if
definitely
it's
go
still
see her.
going. And I hope she quickly does this same show, like at bigger venues. I guess if it was so packed at Bowery, come back and do Webster Hall, Gelli Haha. And I want to see the full album with the new song. I want to see this exact show.
And speaking of Webster Hall, Dave, that's where we saw the show that we both saw, but it was not the same night. And we're talking about the return of Bob Mould's 90s band Sugar, who played their first shows in 31 years at Webster Hall last Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I went the first night on Saturday. You went on Sunday.
I got the worst night. First of all, I chose the worst night. You got the first show in 31 years, and you had as a bonus Michael Azerrad of the book Our Band Could Be Your Life. Who there's a chapter on probably Husker Du, Bob Mould's pre-Sugar band in there, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that was very nicely themed there. Night 3, which was Monday night, got David Cross DJing, which is a cool celebrity appearance. But then also, that was the first night with special guests. Craig Finn of The Hold Steady came out. Patterson Hood of Drive By Truckers came out. By the way, Patterson Hood and Craig Finn have a tour coming soon. And then Jason Narducci of Bob Mould's band came out. So 3 special guests on night 3 after a David Cross DJ set.
Yeah,
man.
that looked nuts.
All I got was the show that happened between those 2 shows. But go on.
Oh, well, I was going to say that the guests are cool, but they came out for the last 3 songs of the set, which are some of the best known, it's the very last songs. They're going out with a bang. And I don't know that I want to hear Craig Finn singing Helpless, to be perfectly honest, as cool as Craig is. I'd just rather have Bob Mould singing those songs, or at least like with If I Can't Change Your Mind, which was the last song of the night. And that's the one Jason Narducci sang on. They sort of traded verses a little bit, and it still sort of worked. But I thought if we had just had one of those each night instead of all 3 at the same show, it would have been, the momentum would have been better. And I think one show where...
I mean, you make a good point. I was so caught up in my FOMO of having the night that didn't have 3 guests that I didn't even think about the fact, JC Auto, on my night, JC Auto, that's the 3rd to last song. I'd say that was the top moment for me in the whole show. That song, that was pre-encore, right? They come back and do Helpless and If I Can't Change Your Mind. And that was the strongest moment, I thought. And I see now that was the one Patterson Hood was on. So would he have ruined the best moment of the night for me? Yeah. Very
I don't know
possible.
about ruined, but and I'm sure that, I'm sure that Craig Finn has karaoke'd Helpless many times before, but yeah, I don't, especially if it's their first show back in 31 years, and maybe you've come to New York from somewhere else. I don't know that I would want to have, and here's somebody else that's going to sing this song.
Did he sing the whole thing instead of Bob?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't watch the video actually.
Yeah. But the shows were cool. I was a big fan of the first Sugar record, Copper Blue, and I got to see them when I was in college in 1992, before that record even came out. And it's one of the top 10 loudest shows I've ever seen in my life. They were not quite as loud as that time, which was in Morgantown, West Virginia. And you can actually hear, I talked with Bob Mould about that show and the rest of the tour. It's on the BV Interviews podcast, if you want to listen to that, where he said they intended to be forceful on this reunion tour, but not punishing. And I think that's what we got. You could definitely still feel the guitars and the bass and the drums like in your chest, but the earplugs that I was wearing did enough,
And I just want to say, when Bill says it was one of his top 10 loudest shows, that means something because he's been to more shows than most people.
That's true. I mean, I saw My Bloody Valentine back in the 90s, and a lot of those shoegaze bands when they were like super loud in the 90s, and many other things. But yeah, it was still plenty loud. Bob Mould really brought the energy. He was, I don't know about at your night, Dave, but he was like running around the stage and spinning around the entire time. And I think this tour is just going to get better once David Barbie and Malcolm Travis get up to speed with Bob a little more. Then it's just going to be, they're just going to gel more. These are just the first 3 shows, and they're touring all summer, and then this fall they'll be back in North America, and I think it's just going to get better.
For sure.
And
so check out those. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the New York show, which is October 16th at Brooklyn Steel, that's Bob Mould's birthday. So that will be a special show, I'm sure.
Yeah, and he made sure to point that out.
He did.
At Webster Hall. He's
all
like,
3
come
nights,
to my birthday party. Yeah. Okay, let's do the news.
Let's do it.
After reuniting in 2015, punk and grunge legends L7 have announced a farewell tour. If you're listening to this when it comes out on Friday, you can get tickets to the New York City show, which is happening at the Knockdown Center now with the Brooklyn Vegan pre-sale password BVL726. Speaking of badass non-male rock bands, Doomgaze band Faytooth have announced that they will be the openers for an upcoming Die Spitz tour. I've sometimes said that Die Spitz are also a metal band, and I think this proves it. Pussycat Dolls' reunion tour has been canceled, meanwhile. People are wondering if it's just a lack of demand or if there's more to this sudden surge of canceled tours. The list of canceled tours also includes Meghan Trainor and Post Malone and Jelly Roll.
Yeah, there have been headlines that we're experiencing blue dot fever and that like the bottom has fallen out of the live music industry. And I do think it's true that people are dealing with like increased living expenses, but I think the live music industry in general, there are definitely at least some artists who are still doing great. Like Olivia Rodrigo, for instance, she just added a bunch of new shows to her big arena tour. She actually is up to 10 shows at Barclays Center. She just keeps like adding more as they sell out. And then Hayley Williams, who just announced, she announced a few cities of the Hayley Williams show tour, and now she announced a full tour. The initial city she announced all sold out. So, and the last tour she announced was hugely sold out. So it seems like pretty likely that this is going to go in the same direction. And the new dates are actually with Magdalena Bay and Rico Nasty joining her for the North American leg. So that's even more appealing. So yeah, I think we're okay in the live music industry in general.
Do you think Olivia Rodrigo can get that up to 30 Barclays Center shows to match Harry Styles, who is doing 30 at MSG, which, by the way, also sold out very quickly, all 30?
I'm definitely wondering. I mean, people are like, why didn't she do stadiums? Which, good question, but...
Because she's cool.
Agreed.
Just like Harry Styles. Yeah, no, I'm glad she's not doing stadiums. Arenas all the way.
Yes.
Montreal Music Fest Oceaga happens in June, and UK indie rock band Bar Italia have just added a New York City date at Knockdown Center, happening before they play the fest. Turnover have announced a new LP, Down on Earth, and you can hear 2 new singles called Nightjar and I See You and Realize. They'll also be on tour with Narrowhead and She's Green starting in June. Speaking of rock bands, the Menzingers have announced a tour with Hot Water Music and Weekend Friends. I'm excited about this one. I'm excited every time the Menzingers announce a show and an album because this tour is in support of their new album, Everything I Ever Saw, which is out in July. One of the best new emo bands, First Day Back, are going on their longest tour ever this summer in support of their debut album, Forward, one of our favorite punk albums of 2025. This tour is with Gap Year, And some dates are with reunited emo vets Ethel Meserve, who have been popping up on shows, also with reunited emo band J. June. And so things are happening in emo. Excited that First Day Back are finally coming to New York City. This is, I want to say, their first ever New York City show, at least first show since I've known about them. And this tour, they're saying, because they played Philly like in the past 6 months, but they didn't come to New York on that trip. And they're saying they're finally able to do this tour because they've graduated college. Austin City Limits has announced its 2026 festival lineup, which has Charlie XCX, Lord, the XX, Turnstile, Geese, The Killers, Brandon Flowers of The Killers. Oh, I said The Killers. Sorry. The Killers are not playing, but Brandon Flowers of The Killers is playing, which is interesting. Does he have something up his sleeve? The War on Drugs, Amyl and the Sniffers, Blood Orange, CMAT, Fuckers, Underscores, and many more across 2 weekends, as always. I think Brandon's only on one weekend, right?
Yeah, Brandon's only on one weekend. There's a few artists who are only one weekend or the other, so double check to make sure if you're thinking of going, make sure the weekend that you get tickets for is the weekend you want.
And neither weekend has the weekend.
True.
M.I.A. was kicked off the Kid Cudi Big Boy Tour after a week after going on what Kid Cudi called offensive rants on stage. In his statement, he said, quote, "I told my management to send a notice to her team before we started tour that I didn't want anything offensive at my shows. After the last couple shows, I've been flooded with messages from fans that were upset by the rants." No comment. M.I.A. has also had a lot to say about it. She wrote a few lengthy messages on Twitter X, as she is known to do, one of which included the line, quote, "Do not gaslight my words. This is the work of Satan." Comedian, writer, and podcaster Ophira Eisenberg has announced a new stand-up special called I Used to Be Nicer, which was shot at New York City's Village Underground at the Comedy Cellar. My favorite comedy club by far, Comedy Cellar, which, if you come to New York City, is in the West Village and has multiple locations now. There's like the original room of Comedy Cellar, but then they're so popular, they've expanded to like other rooms right around that block, which is including the Village Underground, which is where this special was shot. And the special gives, quote, "a Canadian middle finger to toxic positivity, parenting, marriage, maintenance, aging, therapy, and the goddamn cost of eggs." The special premieres on Veeps on May 15th, where it will then also be on demand afterwards. Tickets are on sale now. Thank you again, Amanda. You're not here any longer. Bill actually just dropped off, but thank you, Bill. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Go like and subscribe. BV Weekly, and we're going to skip the 1996 albums. This was a long episode, so stay tuned for more 1996 albums talk on future episodes. But I think that's it for today. Later.
Thanks for tuning in. Dave and I will be back every Friday morning with new episodes of BV Weekly. And in between the episodes, you can always get much more from us at BrooklynVegan.com, on all of our social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can pick up records from us at shop.brooklynvegan.com. And if you like what you hear, tell your friends about us, subscribe to the show, give us a good rating. All that little stuff goes a really long way. It really helps us a lot, and we really appreciate it. So until then, thank you again, and see you next time.